I'm Alex Schoenberger. I'm Principal Product Manager at Shop-Ware and Velo. I'm joined here by David Roman, who owns Done with Care Auto.
I'm done with it. All right.
We'll start that one
Yeah,
over.
he's done with
I'm
auto
joined
repair.
by David
That is
Roman, who
no
owns
joke.
Done with Care Auto Repair, and Lucas Underwood, who owns L&N Performance Auto Repair. David and Lucas are both Shop-Ware customers, and they co-host the Changing the Industry podcast, which Shop-Ware sponsors. So here today to talk about analytics for Shop-Ware and Analytics Lab, and wanted to walk you through it. Analytics is more robust than any of our competitor tools out there that give business intelligence to shops. And Analytics Lab is something that's unmatched right now in the industry, giving shops the ability to create their own dashboards, metrics, and ways to visualize data. So pretty cool tool. I'm going to start screen sharing and start a walkthrough. Please stop me with any questions that you have.
Very cool.
Great.
All right. So coming into Shop-Ware and accessing analytics, you're going to land on the overview page, which is our primary dashboard. This gives your primary KPIs for a shop. Forgive the numbers here. This is a demo account, so everything might look a little wonky, but you understand what the data is here. So your KPIs across the top, your revenue, your ARO, your gross profit per billed hour, is alongside what they were in the prior period that this is being measured in, the difference between that period and the percentage change between the two. This gives you a quick glance at where you're at as a shop. It is default filtered by last month. And
Is it not supposed to be all green? Mine's all red. Is that bad?
Yeah, so there's visual indicators about how you're doing, and if it's all red, that's not good. The filters here, you can filter by time range. If you're a MSO, you can filter by individual shop. And then, across all these dashboards, depending on what the content is, the filters line up to the content. So if you want to filter by techs and advisors here, you can do that as well. As you scroll down this page, it gets into detail around each of these KPIs, and it brings that top line KPI back up to the surface. But then it gives you a look at why things are the way they are. So from an ARO standpoint, all of the drivers for that per technician, per writer, quoting, selling by advisor, top 10 services that aren't getting approved. So basically it gives you the opportunity to diagnose why a number is the way it is and where you might be able to go to improve. And that is kind of the case across all of our different dashboards inside of Shop Analytics. So if you looked at the vehicle dashboard as an example, you're starting off with KPIs at the top. You get into your charts that help you visualize and understand the data. And then typically down toward the bottom, there's also a table, if it's relevant, that gives you the detailed view. And across Shop Analytics, it goes into every angle of your business, whether it's your customers, your close metrics, your open jobs, your parts, your services. It covers all of that. The other two main sections of your analytics are going to be your technician report card, which gets into everything hours and efficiency and productivity related for your techs, and helps you determine pay at times if you're using it for that. And then in summary reports, which here's a good example of this, the service details report. These are all extended tables. So if you're looking to do a big data dump of what you've done, in the recent past as a business, then this is a great place to come. Now, this is a little bit less extensive than you would ordinarily see for a regular shop. When I open up some of our shops' views on this, I'm looking at pages and pages worth of data. But here you're getting into all of your sales, your costs, your gross profit by individual category, and then overall, and you're looking at it through a lens of each of an individual shop, advisor, tech, and customer.
So let me ask you this real quick.
Yeah.
and this is probably going to take a long explanation, but can you kind of go through what steps are going to be required for a shop to ensure that they're getting clean information? Because I think too many shops, they might have the analytics tab that they'll click on it, they'll open it up, and they'll be like, I don't know what any of this means. And maybe they'll see a number that they do understand, but the number looks skewed. And what they don't understand is like what is in the background of that particular number. For example, just go over to the technician report card. That one gets used all the time. And maybe they're trying to track individual hours. Maybe they're trying to for pay reasons. That's incredibly important, right? But maybe they just want to see that technician A is actually billing out 30, 40, 50 hours, whatever it happens to be. And they see a technician A is at 22 hours and technician B is at 122 hours. And they're like, well, this is wrong. And then I'm just telling you, every single shop owner is going to just dismiss all of it because they don't, they see this one number skewed. And it's because they don't understand what on the back end needs to be inputted to make sure that everything gets streamlined.
Yeah.
So that's a really good point. And we'll, I can take that one down a little rabbit hole that's specific to this particular metric. And that, we try to be a solution that meets the needs of every shop. And in doing that, things get measured in different ways because shops measure things in different ways. So as an example, in this case, some shops pay when the RO is completed. Some shops pay when the service is completed. And so when you have that type of change, then, it needs to be carried through the entire experience. And we have a setting in settings right now that does carry it through reports, but it doesn't carry it through analytics yet. It's right about to, and we're right about to make that change.
Okay.
But in general, I think the answer to that is making sure that your settings are clean and set up the way that they're supposed to be. And then all of your numbers should line up. And where things need to be explained, although we're always pushing to make things so obvious they don't need to be explained, we're heading that direction with this right here. Then, you see up here at the top, it's saying in this dashboard, service hours and build hours are for services completed during the date range. And all financials are for ROs that closed during the date range or were started before the end of the date range and are still open. So it's basically trying to give you an explanation about what's going on here and how the filters are working. Now,
but just so everybody understands, though, this is assuming that, let's say there's 3 services on a ticket, but technician A did one service and technician B did the other 2 services because we reassign the ticket. And that happens all the time in my shop. The technician has to go in and make sure that they have marked off what they did and that their name is on those services. Otherwise, everything is going to get counted on whoever what the default technician was. Is that correct?
You're absolutely correct.
Yeah.
That's also something that I keep running into with shops is I'm talking to them and they're saying, hey, Lucas, these numbers can't be right. I'm not using this. And then you find out, well, they're looking at efficiency, utilization, and productivity, but they're not asking their guys to clock in or they're not holding their guys accountable to clocking in. And then they're frustrated because the numbers aren't right. And I'm like, well, where do you think the data is going to come from? The data has to come from somewhere. And that's very important data for an auto repair shop, right? I think that's very important. The number of shops who say, I'm just not going to clock in and out, it's too much to ask them to do that. That is like some core data that your facility needs. I mean,
I don't know that clocking in, clocking out is as important as at least make sure your flipping name is attached to the work that you did, because the technician will just mark it off and then send it to the service advisor. Meanwhile, it's like, dude, you just did 4 of the 6 operations on this particular RO, and the default technician is listed off on all of them. So when I come to you saying, hey, you worked 40 hours last week, but you only billed 22 hours. No, there were 4 jobs on that 6-job ticket that you didn't even get credit for because you didn't bother to check to make sure your name was on the work that you did.
You're
like
absolutely
that's
right.
it. You don't have to clock in and clock out at the individual RO level. Just make sure your name's on there. So at the end, when everything gets counted for and the billed hours are all allotted for, that, hey, you were here 40 hours because that's what I paid you for. And you billed me out 45 hours because your name's attached to all the work you actually did.
Let me put something in perspective here, though. is right. The way I pay at the end of the week is I give them a report of all the hours that they did, right?
Mhm.
If they're clocking in and out, I'm seeing that they have something that's 0 hours billed, but they have time associated with that task.
Oh, I
Now
see.
it
Yeah.
gives me another spot that I can see that and can say, this person was on this labor line. They were clocked into it. So now I can see, dude, you had 5 hours on this, but you've got 0 billed hours. Help me understand. And
Yeah.
you know, with Eric, one of the things we do with Eric is he has to go around and help everybody else in the shop. So as he's clocking on, he kept saying, "Well, I don't have time to clock onto those jobs." I'm like, "Well, that's where your build hours are going." Because I
Yeah.
tend to go in and update the build hours and it's, "Hey, I helped this person do this." Well, I don't know that he's helped him unless he clocked into that.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's partially that they have to put some work in on their end too.
Yeah,
And it's muscle
Lucas,
memory.
I mean, actually, you're both absolutely right about that. So the tool is a great tool, but it is only as good as the data that goes into it. And so
Mhm.
if you put garbage data in, it gets garbage data back out.
Right. For sure.
So while we're on that topic, another big section of analytics is the glossary. So this is where you go. You know, there's a lot of stuff in analytics. If you're confused about how something is being calculated or you don't understand it, then going and finding it inside of the analytics glossary is the right way to go to get that definition, to understand the calculation, and that will help you not only in viewing our canned dashboards inside of analytics, but also when you're building things out in analytics lab, understanding what you're using.
Got you. I
The
use the glossary all the time, dude. I use it very frequently, especially if I'm into a new report or something I haven't seen before. I'll even use it to make sure I'm doing hand calculations right, things like that, or working with another shop. They say, "Hey, what does this mean?" It gives me a way to explain it, and it helps me further my abilities by seeing the calculation here.
Absolutely. The last two sections inside of regular analytics, you probably see ATI, ShopFix, 180 Biz, the Institute. We also have another coaching organization, Elite Pro Services Group. This is our demo account. They're all turned on. Now, your top level menu wouldn't be as messy if you're just working with one coaching org, but the point is that if you're working with a coaching organization, we have their dashboard. We have the metrics that they're looking for to work with you to help make your business successful. And
That
any changes to those we make at request. Any new coaching organizations pop up, we add them.
I'm going to tell you that is a huge deal because all of these coaching organizations want you to look at your numbers and put them in a different document because that kind of adds to the fact, hey, I've looked at the number, I've typed it in, and it kind of cements it in, if you will. Like you know what the number is now because you didn't just glance at it and say, yeah, it's this number. You put it in and you recognized what went into getting that number. And so they want you to transfer it into another document for that very reason. Having it up there is life changing when you're with a coaching company because I can look at it and say, here's my information. Let me transfer this over. It saves so much time from instead of going to report looking for it, it's a simple click of a button.
Absolutely. The final section that you see here, and I'm not going to dive into these because we're going to dive into them in a different way here in a minute, but our custom dashboards. So you can, with Analytics Lab, create custom dashboards, visualizations, tables, whatever you want inside of Analytics Lab, and you can have them appear for you and your whole team that has access to analytics anytime you want. You know, if the things that are in our canned dashboards don't have the right data, or more commonly, don't have it arranged exactly how you want for your shop. And we find that every shop is a little bit different in how they want the data visualized or the KPIs for an individual person. And so this has become very helpful for our shops to be able to create their own custom views. So if you'd like, I can jump into Analytics Lab.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. So let's share a new tab here. All right. So there are a few different ways to start this process inside of Analytics Lab. The most common one that I hear, and by the way, we have routine meetings weekly with shops that need a quick refresher on Analytics Lab, have a question about how to do something. We have an open forum on Wednesdays for that to help
That's
shops
cool.
out. One of the most common questions that we get is, like, hey, how do I go about adding, like, I like this chart over here. How do I go about adding something to it? And so if you took, for example, um, the vehicle detail dashboard, and I'll jump back to that real fast and we'll look at it. There's a table down at the bottom of it, and I've gotten this question, I think, 3 times in the last month, and we're about to probably make a change to it to respond to those, just to have it in the canned reports, so the people are stopping creating custom reports about it. But this vehicle details by make, enlarging the amount of information on it, has been, from a few different angles, a routine request. So the cool thing about Analytics Lab is that you can start from scratch if you want to, but you don't have to. So there's 3 menus across the top. There's dashboards, charts, and data sets. Data sets are your raw starting point to create a dashboard, to create a chart. Charts are the individual elements on an entire dashboard. So when I click on a link in Analytics, that is an entire dashboard. The individual page elements, those are called charts. What powers those are called data sets. So the collection of data that feed into that. And so the easiest way to get where you need to go inside of Analytics Lab is to go find something that is pretty darn close to what you already need, which is a pretty common use case, and go into the charts tab and go and search for that chart. So I'm going to start from the table that I just showed you on the vehicle details dashboard. And I searched by vehicle details. I've got vehicle details by make was what I was looking for. So I'm going to click into that. And you're going to see how this table looks on that dashboard today. So this is the exact table. You've got your makes, you've got your metrics associated with it. Now, let's say, hypothetically, I wanted to get a better understanding of by make over a given time frame, what my customer count was, in terms of first visits and repeat visits. And this is a pretty long list, by the way. So if I can't find stuff, then there's a search box for that. And I can just type in repeat, and it pulls back what I need. As well, real fast, while we were in there, I spotted something that's a nice little highlight. So this is a metric. It's going to give you an overall count. But this binary 10 is for repeat customer visit, is if, more along the lines of, you're looking at a list of individual customers and you want to see, is this customer a repeat visitor or not? And then it gives you a yes or a no instead of a count.
Okay. Cool.
Anyway, so what I did just a moment ago was add first visit count, which we're going to drop in right behind car count, and repeat visit count, which we're going to do the same. And this reorders the columns. This is a pivot table. No, sorry, it's a regular table. And it is, these are all the metrics associated with it. So these are all the numbers on the dashboard. This is the information, the dimension that is that they're related to. Your filters, right now there's a time filter. It's not set up for anything in particular. I'm going to go ahead and set it. But keep in mind, your filters on the actual dashboard are going to supersede this once we get to that point. I'm going to give it a longer time window. I'm going to look at the last year because this is a demo account. It's not a real shop. We don't have as much data. Your work order state is closed. So we're only looking at closed work orders. If we wanted to look at everything, we could get rid of that and open that up. And there's also a sort. So I could do sort descending, sort ascending if I wanted to see the data in a particular order. I could also add a summary down at the bottom. And if I'm hitting a row limit, although I'm not going to hit a row limit on a number of makes, then I can jack that up so that all the data appears. I'm going to go ahead and hit update chart, and it's going to drop those 2 columns in. And so And of course, this is a demo. So the repeat visit count appeared over here on the far right. So I can rearrange that. By the way, this worked perfectly before. I'm going to try rearranging that. And yeah, okay. So put it back where it's supposed to be. So here you're getting your first visit count, your repeat visit count right after your car count. And so, then you've got the chart the way you want it to. You're gonna save it off, and you're gonna want to rename it. So vehicle details by make and visit. And I'm gonna go ahead and save that. You can add it to a existing custom dashboard right from here if you want to. We don't have one to add it to yet though. So we're gonna go take care of that here in a minute. I'm gonna save this as a chart, and we're gonna remember that it's vehicle details by make and visit. And then we're gonna go back over to dashboards. And so here are all your dashboards. They're all in a published state, including the ones that are custom. If you encounter a custom dashboard you don't want to see anymore, you can click this publish button. It'll go back to unpublished and you'll stop seeing it in the regular view. So I'm going to create a new dashboard here. We're going to click that dashboard button. And here I've got my untitled dashboard. So I want it to appear in that submenu called custom that we saw earlier. So I'm going to delete that out. I'm just going to do custom dash vehicle details by make and visit, and just rename that, save that off. And then I'm going to pull that chart on. So that was vehicle details by make and visit, which you don't have to type the whole thing, but I did. And you drop that on there and you can resize it. So it's probably too small to read unless it's a KPI box at the initial size, but you can pull it out. And so here you've got your table in here. You can add more charts to this. And they don't have to be tables. They can be pie charts, bar charts, line graphs, whatever you want. It can be in here, all in the same dashboard for you. And the last thing that you need to be doing is adding your filters. So opening up the filter menu, just click add or edit filters. I'm going to do a time filter first. And I'm going to set a default value for that filter of last. And so we're talking about not a whole lot of data to work with here in a demo account. So I'm going to go last year. You might want to do last month. And I'm going to click save. So that gives me that filter. And this is a pretty simple dashboard. So the only other filter I'm going to add here is make. And so I'm going to search for the make column. So here's vehicle make. I can set a default value on that if I want to, but I'm just going to leave it open. And you can also say values are dependent on other filters. So if two of your filters are dependent on each other, then selecting something in one would narrow the options in the other, which can be helpful if you're dealing with a list of services or something else that creates a very long list. So saving that off, I've got a dashboard now. Now it's in draft mode. I'm done with it though. So I'm going to go ahead and click publish, click the draft button, and it goes published. And then I'm going to go over and let me share this other tab here. I'm going to refresh this, and underneath the custom dashboard list, then I see vehicle details by make and visit. And here's my dashboard.
Nice.
And so we see shops using this for all kinds of things. It could be metrics that drive an employee's job, things that they need to know to be able to do their job. It could be related to pay and performance and helping an employee or their manager understand how they're performing for coaching purposes. Any number of things. There's a massive amount of data to work with here. And the creativity we see in our shops coming up with new ways to use the data is amazing every day.
It can feel, I keep talking to people, and it can feel a little overwhelming the first time they open Analytics Lab.
Yeah.
It's a ton of data. It's a ton of stuff to look at. You start playing around with it. You click some buttons, you drag some stuff over, and it just doesn't work like you think it should work. Give us a good rundown of how they would start with this, right? Like, let's just take and say what do I need on a daily basis? I need to know what my daily sales was. I need to know how many build hours I had, maybe my efficiency and productivity. And, I need to know, I don't necessarily care as much about my gross profit numbers on a daily basis, but I might be interested in what's my gross profit per build hour. And is there a way to see how many payments I actually took in today? What would my batch be tomorrow when my credit card payment comes through? Like those are things I'm thinking, hey, I want a daily report. And I know we get that with the dollar sign, but maybe I want to change it up. Alex, how do I come into this and start? Like, what's the first step?
Yeah. So from that standpoint, you're talking about a general dashboard. So I would start from the dashboard tab, and I'd start building a dashboard, and I would start searching for the chart that I was looking for. You were talking about several different things. And so if I was looking for gross profit in particular, and I've got show only my charts checked, so that's part of what the issue is there. So unchecking that, I get a whole list of things related to gross profit, and so I'm looking for a KPI box. So I'm going to search by visualization type. So here I've then got the big number, which is your KPI box, and so I'm going to search for the generic version of that. And if I pull it over and it's got some kind of crazy title on it, then I can rename it. But all right, so a lot of these are titled by their particular dashboard that they came from. So I'm going to pull over just simple GP percentage.
Okay.
There we go. So here's your total monthly GP percentage. This one came out of ShopFix. I can retitle that if I want to by going into to edit this and just drop that out by deleting it.
Okay.
Okay, so I've got my monthly GP percentage, and it's basically going through and either finding these charts or going in and adding them yourself. So as an alternative, you can go and create these in charts. Now there is a little bit of a learning curve on this that everybody goes through, and we are aware of that. We actually are working on ideas to make it even easier than it is. And a couple of things to be aware of, though. The most common the most common data sets that you're going to be using are going to be detail work orders and detail work order services.
Okay.
So detail work order services, as an example, jumping into that. So you've got pretty much every metric under the sun at the service level. Detailed work orders will give it to you at the RO level. And so if it's not in those two, then what I typically do when I'm searching for what data set it might be in is I will scan the list of data sets, and I will look to understand, okay, well, I'm looking for something that has recommendations in it. And so I'm basically looking at, okay, well, is it in there? And I open multiple tabs real fast. And then, in each of those tabs, so I've got detailed recommendations down here as well. So each of those tabs, I'm poking my head into real fast to look at, okay, well, what is in this? Okay, so we have a little bit, and then in this one, you've got a little bit more. This looks more up my alley in terms of getting something built out for a table of recommendations, as an example.
Okay, so over here on the next side over, because this is where I got into trouble. Okay, the first couple of times I tried to use it, I'm trying to understand things like aggregate and raw record and dimensions, and so if I want to start dropping this in, give me a rundown of what my next steps would be, because there's all the different chart types and table types and
Yeah,
all of this up here. It can feel
absolutely.
a little bit overwhelming. It's really not that bad. It's just understanding it.
Absolutely. So yes, I mean, this is built out to be a very robust tool, and by doing that, then it can feel overwhelming the first time that you use it. And I said it once earlier before, but I wanted to reemphasize it. We're here to help, and we have weekly sessions where shops come in and ask questions about this, and we help them out. We also help outside those times to get them where they need to be, and help accelerate that learning curve. But once you're at the point where you've picked out your data set, then you're figuring out, okay, well, what is the chart type I want to be using? I would say, honestly, 99% of our requests that we get from shops are, I want to build a table or a pivot table.
Okay.
There are a lot of different options for things that you can do, and you can go through and explore them. In this left-hand column, you can also, there are some super common ones that are up here at the top where you can pick a bar chart or a line chart or a pie chart, and you can start from those angles as well. But there's quite a bit to do here. But the happy path here, the path that just gets you a table is super simple, and you don't really have to change anything at all. Make sure you're on a table, or if you need the data organized in relationship to a particular set of or particular column, then you're picking a pivot table. And then you're picking out, okay, well, what columns am I going to start with? So you've got, let's say you want to make this a customer report. Let's drop customer into dimensions. I've got customer first name, customer last name, and I want to understand, by customer. This is going to be a fairly detailed report in terms of, getting down into the weeds at the individual level. I want to understand, okay, well, how many recs were there for that customer? See, it won't even let me drop recs, which is a metric, anywhere other than it won't let me drop into dimensions. It has to go into metrics. So number of recs, rec dollars, and keeping it simple. I mean, I can keep pulling things over continuously, but I don't need to worry about aggregate or raw records. I just leave it set on aggregate, and I don't need to worry about percentage metrics.
What does percentage
metrics are just dropped into the metrics column. They work the same way.
Okay.
And then for filters, I'm just setting a date range here, and so there's also the ability to flip that to closed and only look at closed stuff. And I think for this purpose, it makes sense to do that, also just to show it. If you just want to look at a particular date range, whether it's closed or not, then you're using days TS. Otherwise, your closed date is the way to go. You want to set that and give it something as a default, and just know that it gets overridden once you're at the dashboard level. But here, if you want to make sure it's looking at closed work order data instead of just any work order data, then you want to make sure that filter is set here. And then, if you're concerned about having a lot of data, then bump up your row limit. And if you would like a summary count over the full scope of your data down at the bottom that adds everything up, you check that box. Otherwise, you leave it unchecked. And you click create chart, and demo accounts. So we're looking at a pretty thin amount of data, but here you've got Clint Eastwood, and he's got 9 recs and $1,100 worth of rec dollars. So getting through this the first time takes a little bit, but the more you get the hang of it, and I personally had to get the hang of this, the more you spend time with it, the faster it gets. I built out early on when we were building out this tool and we were replacing our older analytics product. I built about 50 customer reports, and I think by number 5, I was pretty fast.
I had a pretty good feel for it, for sure. And that's what I found as well, is once I started working with it and I started going in and just playing around and figuring out what data's in there, then it
Yeah.
became very clear what I was trying to accomplish. I think for me, the biggest thing was like dimensions. What in the world is it talking about dimensions? What is the sort down here? What are those things? And I think that's the biggest thing for me. I played around with it and figured it out because I don't tend to like go to the training that I'm supposed to go to. So I winged it to try and figure it out. That's not the
Yeah.
way to go. The way to go is to go to the training for sure.
Well, for sure. And another way to look at this, Lucas, too, is if you go in and you look at charts and you click into something, like maybe you found it inside of regular analytics, maybe you just type in something you're interested in, you find it in the list. Then okay, so I've got a vehicle details table. I'm going to click into that. I see it's using DS detail work orders as a data set. It's over here on my test dashboard, so maybe that's a bad example. But you see other ones in here that are part of our CAN dashboards. And so clicking into this, okay, well, how did they build this bar chart?
Right.
And at times, how did they build it sideways? And so you start to look at something that's already been created, and you can crib off of it when you're creating your own stuff, and you can see, okay, well, here's x-axis, y-axis, this is how they did that. And then it becomes apparent more quickly without forcing yourself through a ton of trial and error.
Hey, we
How
need to make
something,
sure
yeah,
that they clip this part for a reel because this would have saved me a ton of time.
yes.
For those that don't go to the class, this right here would have made a huge difference. I would have gotten up 10 hours of my life back.
Yeah, and the cool thing about these CAN dashboards and charts too is that they've been through our engineering team, our testers, our people. They've been out there in the wild among customers for a long time. They're right, so you can trust them, and you can rely upon the way that they were done to reproduce things on your own.
I love that. I love that. That's awesome, dude. David, what dashboard are you building first?
Man, I would keep something really simple, super simple, and then just build out from there. I don't know.
I'm thinking about building myself a daily report at this point. I think that's what I want to start with is like I want to build the daily report. I want to build a daily, a weekly, and a monthly report that I review with this manager every single week. And maybe I build a daily, weekly, monthly tech report that looks at tech efficiency, that looks at issues that we could relate to the tech. So I can have a dashboard for either, and then I can share relevant information. Because what I had found myself doing in the past is I'm like bouncing from report to report to report to show them the data that's relevant to them. Well, this gives me the opportunity to have the relevant data for the manager meeting. It gives me the data to say, okay, we're going to have a tech meeting. I could even build specific tech reports at some point, and then they can come in and I can have that meeting with them because we talk so much about one-on-ones on the show, how important it is to do a one-on-one. This gives you the tools to have that meeting and have it configured in a way that you don't have to question. So I think that's pretty powerful.
Can these be exported?
Yes, absolutely. So if you go over to any particular chart inside of analytics, and our summary reports are the most common things that get exported. I'll go back to service details real fast. So there's a little ... up here in the upper right, and I can download this by CSV or pivoted CSV, depending on how I want to visualize the data inside of that tool, or Excel. And I can also schedule an email export. Clicking this schedule export button pops up a modal. I get to name it. I get to describe it if I want to. And then I get to say, okay, this is going to be emailed. And here's how often it's going to get emailed, on what day, at what time, in what time zone. And, you want to send this as a formatted CSV or an Excel file. And you get to choose what your email subject name is going to be, and then list out who the recipients are, separated by comma or semicolon. And then you just add it, and you can add CC and BCC as well. So if you're looking to, send out a report on a daily basis, and a lot of our shops do this, they fire off a report that includes stuff about the prior day every day at 7 a.m. A lot of our shops send stuff, to various people or themselves on a monthly basis. All of that is possible in here and gets managed inside of scheduled exports. Once you have your list of scheduled exports here, and again, demo count, there's none, then you can edit or delete them if you don't like what time it's going out, you don't like that it's going out at all, you want to throw it in the trash, whatever.
Yeah. Okay. Very cool. I think this is an underutilized aspect of Shop-Ware. I really do. I just don't think enough people dig into it. And a lot of people just click on the one report button and don't realize the rest of this is here. Man, there is a ton of data that can be accessed from your shop right here.
Yeah.
Well,
and
at the very
there's
least, they
there's
can build
more on
out
the
a
way.
simple report and then just export it out to themselves every single day.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? To build an end-of-day report for the metrics that they want to see, and create an export schedule. So in their email in the morning, they can open it up and see, yeah, this is what we did yesterday. This is how many cars we did. This is how many closed tickets, whatever metrics they want to look at. And then now they've got the end-of-day reports they would want, and they can keep a pulse on the business that way. And because so many shop owners get stuck in the mire and then they don't look up to see what's actually going on, having those scheduled reports going out at least gets them to recenter their perspective.
Mhm.
If that makes
Yep.
sense.
I agree. Well, and it forces them to look at it, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, I know many won't, but like it can force them. Hey, they see that report come through, man, I need to look at that. And it keeps it from going out of sight, out of mind. One of the things that I've noticed is it's like everything going on with the family business. When you think about that, if my dad had reports on a daily basis that he was getting and seeing
Oh,
how
yeah.
much money was
Mhm.
going in, how much was coming out, and I get that doesn't necessarily come from your shop management software in this instance, but like at least if you knew what was coming in, and then you realize like, hey, why don't we have any money? We did $100,000 last week. Where'd the money go? Right?
Mhm.
Like it gives you something, it gives you that check and balance piece of it that I think is missing. And that was one of the things that Hunt Damaris, I sat in his fraud class a couple years ago. We were at STX in Orlando, and he was saying like, hey, reporting, you need a consistent report you look at every single day. And if nothing else, compare that report back to your bank account. Understand what's going to be deposited, understand what your sales were, and look at that number and then compare it to your bank account. That's a great way to prevent fraud. And I think this is an awesome tool to be able to help do that. The number of shop owners, I made a video about fraud the other day, and the number of shop owners who reached out and said, man, I had a parts man get me for $200,000. Man, I had a service manager get me for this. A service advisor was converting tickets to cash. And all of this stuff, we protect ourselves with data. That's how we're going to prevent that from happening.
Absolutely.
So I think there's some good opportunities here. I really do.
So it occurred to me while I was showing y'all a moment ago where to go to see exports. I was not sharing the right tab, so I don't know if you actually saw that, but for the purposes of the video, I'm going to do this real fast one more time. So
For sure.
to export a report, I'm going to go over to service details as an example, and I'm going to click this ... at the top of the chart. Now you can download this report by CSV, pivoted CSV if you need the data that way, or Excel. You can also schedule an email export. And
by the way, everybody's just going to use image because it's a graph, and then they're going to be able to just look at the picture and go, oh,
they could do that. Yes.
Graph go up.
Especially, when it's a graphical visualization. Yeah. I think a picture is sometimes going to be a little bit better. You can name your scheduled export in the description. You can pick, out of the drop down, how often it gets sent, which day of the week, at what time, and which time zone. You can pick the content format, and then you can title your email subject line, pick your recipients, add CCs and BCCs if you want, and then you're off to the races. If this weren't a demo account, you'd have a long list of exports that had already been set up here and the ability to edit or delete the ones that already existed.
For sure. I just want to point out to everybody, just to make David happy, what I'm going to do with this data. I'm going to create a CSV export. I am going to create an email address that just goes directly to my AI. I'm going to have it analyze the business, and it's going to send me a big red stop sign that tells me if the business is broken. Okay, that's how I'm going to know that the shop is broken moving forward. Okay.
They actually just going to tell you what you want to hear. You're great, Lucas. You're the best shop owner ever. It's like, oh yeah, thanks AI.
The AI business coach. Let's go. Hey, that would make me feel better than Cecil does. I'm just gonna be
Yeah, are you tired of getting yelled at by Cecil? Buy our AI shop coach. It just tells you what you want to hear. Everything's great. Thanks, AI. This is awesome.
Alex is like, what have y'all done? Man, this was awesome. This was awesome.
I appreciate your time, guys. It was great.
Awesome. Sounds good, guys. I hope y'all have a great rest of your day.